everybody. So, first of all, I put a dress on just to make this video. Trying to look decent here, you know. Happy New Year, everybody. Last time I made a video was on Monday, I think, for my colposcopy, but I didn't know if I said that. If I did, Happy New Year again. If I didn't, Happy New Year. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience this time around with postpartum anxiety. I recently, well, less than a month ago, I started taking antidepressants for anxiety, and this is something that I didn't do with the twins, even though I also had postpartum anxiety with them, because everything was just, it was a different situation back then. I was able to kind of work through it, and this time I seem to be having a harder time. I think it's because, well, of a lot of reasons, but a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, which I'll explain in a second. But, you know, I know that it's very normal to experience postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, and I think another part of it was just going through this a second time, in both good and bad regards, kind of. Also, if you hear Parker in the background, that's her making little squishy noises in the background. I just fed her, so she is sitting down in her boppy in front of me, behind the camera, and so she is here, of course. She usually is. Just excuse that, you know, mom life and all that. So, anyway, I guess I'm just gonna get started. So, I realized about 4 weeks postpartum, right before 4 weeks postpartum, I think, if I remember correctly, it was the day before Thanksgiving that I started feeling really a lot of more anxiety, and Thanksgiving was the day that I was exactly 4 weeks postpartum, so it was like the night before I turned 4 weeks, or she was 4 weeks old. So I kind of figured, okay, you know, I had my boyfriend's son was over, and his mom was is really concerned about the pandemic and all that, so I thought maybe it was just because I was being exposed to her anxiety about it, or her worries or whatever, that it was kind of like coming off on me, because I'm already really like germophobic, I guess you could say. I don't know, I know that's like not the correct term for it or whatever, but I'm already like, I have a lot of health anxiety and stuff, and so I've been fighting it since, you know, March about all this. The mask thing really freaked me out in the beginning. Before it was mandatory to wear masks, I couldn't bring myself to wear them because it made me feel like my anxiety was going to get worse. I think I might have said that in a pregnancy update. Not that I didn't believe all that stuff, but since it wasn't mandatory, I didn't, you know, there wasn't all of the stuff yet. So, anyway, I've always had really bad health anxiety that I've been fighting since March of last year, and so I just figured, okay, well, you know, this will go away and I'll just figure it out. So it didn't go away. I started feeling like if I left the house, even if I didn't get out of my car, my phone is now dirty. I have been washing my phone with like sanitizing wipes whenever I come back home, which makes me not want to leave the house. So I've been leaving the house a lot less. It makes, I don't know, I started feeling like everything was dirty. It was just kind of out of control, because before that, even though obviously I would change my clothes and all that if I actually went outside, if I went for a walk and like didn't touch anything, I wasn't really freaked out. Or if I was like in my car and I didn't get out of my car, I wasn't really freaked out. But it started getting to the point where I was. So I decided to make an appointment with a psychiatrist, which I don't have a psychiatrist. I do go to therapy, like talk therapy, but I didn't have a psychiatrist, so I needed to like call and make an appointment with one, and it was just a whole hassle. So I got an appointment, and he talked to me for like, I think it was an hour-long appointment. Maybe it was 30 minutes, but he just asked me a bunch of questions, and he was just like, okay, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What's your past experience with mental health and all that? Which I have stories upon stories. I mean, he did not have enough time for me to explain everything. So, we talked, and then we kind of decided to give me a prescription for an antidepressant and also for Ativan to help with that in the short term. I started having really bad anxiety attacks, especially at night. I started getting, like, everything was a trigger. Social media would trigger me, the TV would trigger me, little comments people made here and there would trigger me. The news has always triggered me, so that's been a thing that I don't like the news in the beginning to begin with, but I've really, really been avoiding it now because I just don't want to deal with the anxiety that it causes me. And anyway, so decided to do that. Luckily, that has been working pretty well for me. But I think another part of it, and why I decided to do this, was just that I think I've really been thinking about it a lot, and I think that for a lot of people, traumatic birth is a thing. I don't know if I would exactly say that my birth with Parker was traumatic. My actual birth with her was not, as I'm sure if anybody has watched my labor and delivery story with her, it wasn't traumatic giving birth to her. The actual act of it, the immediate postpartum was very, very easy. And other than the breastfeeding being hard, the immediate postpartum was really, really easy for me. And I didn't bleed like I did with the twins. I didn't have any complications. I was able to leave basically after 24 hours. I mean, obviously I gave birth to her at 1 in the morning, so it wasn't 24 hours, but it was like the next morning after, like it was the next day in the morning. So just over 24 hours. And everything was really easy, but the labor with her was just not what I wanted. I'm sure I talked about that in my story as well. Okay. I went to go get the little baby, so she's going to come join us for the rest of the story. I think that it's just when you don't get what you were expecting to get out of your experience, labor and delivery and birth is something that's really, really special to people who are moms, who, give birth to their children. I think there is a certain amount of understanding of, like, birth doesn't go the way you expect it to an extent at least, and there's definitely an amount of, like, you can't avoid some complications, like, if you need a C-section because the baby's in distress or something, then obviously there's nothing you could have done. If the baby's breech and you need a C-section, there's nothing you could have done. Stuff like that. If you were planning to not have a C-section and you really didn't want to do that, or if, for instance, like, obviously I would have preferred to not have to be on antibiotics, but that wasn't really something that I could control. The GBS was positive, so that was something that I had to deal with, whether I liked it or not. But things you can control, that you know that you can control, like the decisions you make, like your pain management, or like how I decided to get induced, and now I regret that and all that. There's definitely parts that you can absolutely control, and I think, after having such a positive experience labor-wise with the twins, being induced and all that, and then expecting that with her birth, and having the opposite where, like, the twins' birth was traumatic, but the labor was fantastic, and whereas her labor was traumatic, but the birth was fantastic, and almost made up for the labor. Almost, not quite. I just kind of feel like now I've gotten I don't know, the worst of both worlds, I guess. I mean, you could also see it as the best of both worlds, but the thing is just because I had a successful labor with the twins, a successful induction, I was able to have vaginal birth with them and all that, it still wasn't the birth that I wanted. My labor was as good as it could be considering the circumstances, but that didn't mean that it was a labor that I wanted. I didn't want an epidural. I was forced into that. I was a single mom at the time, so I didn't have the partnership that I needed. It was kind of like everything I didn't get with the twins, I was able to get with her other than the epidural, and vice versa. But I just can't help but still be angry about the epidural and all that. And I think a lot of people deal with that, and that causes a lot of like postpartum anxiety and depression and stuff just because of that. I mean, I guess I have to say like anger that it causes. I feel really angry and disappointed about the whole thing, even now 2 months later. And just, I think that kind of just contributes, that's all. But I think it's really, really good to understand that you can always ask for help. I've always struggled with anxiety basically my entire life. I know for a fact that I had anxiety since I was at least 7. That I obviously didn't know what anxiety was at the time, but I knew that I was concerned about things. I was concerned about like things that had to do with health specifically, mostly. And like, I don't know, just feeling like superstitious, I guess. As much as I try to fight it, superstition just, it makes me panic. I was diagnosed with panic disorder. I have been diagnosed with other stuff that has since been taken off of my record, and I've also been diagnosed with like just general anxiety, which I don't quite agree with. I think my anxiety is very not generalized, and I think it's very specific, but there's just, you know, there's been a lot of struggles for me. I did have a past of depression. So for me, having postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression or postpartum OCD was something that I somewhat prepared myself for and kind of expected, or, you know, was concerned about at least. Thankfully, I haven't had postpartum depression with either one of these births. I did have postpartum depression with a loss that I had before that was undiagnosed at the time, because I actually didn't have a therapist at the time, but when I talked with my therapist after the fact and told her about what happened and how I felt at the time, she definitely said that that's what she thinks happened, and I agree. But luckily, since then, I've had good support and have been able to avoid that somehow. But the anxiety has definitely been a lot. I think the anxiety has also kind of crept into making videos. I am a very sensitive person in some aspects. I don't take criticism very well, and just, you know, I made a video previously about how I was concerned about losing subscribers and stuff, and just feeling sad about the fact that I saw that someone like gave me a thumbs down on something, even though it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter, but you know, just things here and there about stuff. It's kind of gotten in the way of me wanting to make videos, but I know deep down in my soul that I really, really want to do this, and I really do want to like vlog things for home videos. I grew up with my parents making home videos, and it's one of my favorite things to watch, was watching the home videos. Now they're on you know, we had a camcorder, and we don't have a way of playing it, so I'm actually trying to figure out a way to play that so I can watch them again. But it was one of my favorite things to do, was have these home videos and film my life. When I was in middle school, I used to like pretend to have a reality TV show. It was just really silly, but it was fun, and I definitely want my kids to be able to have that to look back on too, not just little tiny videos here or there, or like pictures. I mean, I have tons and tons of pictures of them, but you know, I want to be able to have things more recorded, you know? And I've been kind of just trying to wait till quarantine's over so we can go do things, and I can like vlog those, like trips or, you know, holidays or whatever. But and then I always get caught up in the moment and I forget to film and all that. And obviously I'm not in the mindset of thinking to film rather than being in the moment yet. But it's definitely just, my anxiety's gotten in the way of that. So anyway, that's my long rant about everything that's been going on anxiety-wise. If anybody is interested, if anybody even makes it this far, I feel like nobody watches the entire video that I make. But if anybody even makes it this far or anything, if anybody wants me to explain my past mental health struggles or stories, there's obviously some parts of the story that I would need to leave confidential and private because it's not just my business. As I'm sure everybody knows, you know, there are other people involved when it comes to your life sometimes. When it comes to, you know, 10 years ago, these are stories that took place 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. So I can't give every single detail, but I would be very, very open to explaining some of the stories that I've had. I have a lot of them. I advocate for mental health a lot because it's really, really important to have that help and have that outlet and just know that it's normal. A lot of people struggle with that kind of stuff and there's no shame in it. So if anybody wants me to do that, I am totally down. I might decide to just do it regardless. Anyway, just the thing is I need to figure out how to keep certain things private. But anyway, sorry for such a long blabbing, but that is my anxiety and depression blab. I'm gonna put this girl back down. I think she's falling asleep. And thank you so much for watching. Please like, and if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. I will try to, you know, make my content more interesting. So I'm working on it. Okay, that's one of my goals for the year is to make this more interesting for everybody, including myself. So yeah, all right. Everybody have a fabulous day. Happy Thursday, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.